Frenchie's Art Gallery, located on historic Oak Street beside the Maple Leaf Bar. With over 3,000 square feet of space, it features a large gallery front room and Frenchie's personal art studio. Frenchie's Art Gallery is also connected to the Maple Leaf Courtyard, which is ideal for the New Orleans night scene. Frenchie's Art Gallery, 8314 Oak Street. Yeah, you're right.
Located at 109 Wall Boulevard in Gretna, Uniforms by Logo Express provides school uniforms, medical wear, hospitality wear, safety and industrial wear, and so much more. We offer a number of locations on both sides of the river. 2 in Chantilly, 1 in Woodmere, and our main store located in Gretna. Uniforms by Logo Express. Your brand starts here.
The owners of the Delachey's Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez Delachey, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez Delachey, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Here's the bottom line. Well, it's funny that you say that. Let me tell you. Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Primetime Sports. Hey, I got to tell you, I hope everybody out there had a great Thanksgiving holiday, and now we're gearing towards Christmas. But wow, what a difference a week makes. Last weekend, our 3 local teams that we love the most, you know them, Tulane, LSU, and of course the New Orleans Saints, well, they all lost. They were 0-3. 2 of them were in heartbreaking fashion. The Saints 23-20 loss to Carolina on Thursday night set the tone. And then LSU on that Florida goal line stand. They almost could have punched it in for the win. They did not. And then Tulane got blown out in that game for the 6th straight loss. Well, let me say this. They scored 30 points total. But this week, quite a change. It was so beautiful. All 3 teams beat the brakes off their opponents. Let's start it with Tulane. Hey, they wiped out UConn. This was a huge shocker. Maybe not the win, but the score, 38-13. And then the LSU Tigers, my goodness, they recovered from that Florida loss nicely. 54 points against the Texas A&M Aggies. Hey, Darius Geis broke Leonard Fournette's month-long record he's had when he got 284 yards. Geis broke it by 285 yards rushing for a new LSU record. That is quite an accomplishment. And the Saints, well, they put the cherry on top on Sunday. How about this? 49-21. They shut out the Rams in the second half after giving Jared Goff 3 touchdown passes in the first. But I got to tell you, this show, I don't usually promote next week's stuff this early, but I am because I have another Saints Hall of Famer. I've also got a current Saints player. We're going to have a great show and a very, very cool surprise guest for you, and also a Big Sam's Funky Nation. But this week, well, I'm going to tell you what, this is all information highway. I know a lot of you out there prefer people that know it. Well, we got CST's Eric Richey. He's going to cover the Saints, LSU. We got Ed Ogeron's hiring covered. ESPN's Justin Verrier. He's going to be all over the Pelicans, and they are a little bit hotter than they were before, 6 out of their last 10. And don't forget that we're going to have Andrew Alexander from ESPN Radio. I got a special story on him. And then the most talented bassist I've ever seen, Charlie Wooton. He's a local. He's coming up next. All these guys on Primetime Sports. It's going to be a fun one. Welcome back, New Orleans. And you got your first taste of my man, Charlie Wooton. To me, one of the greatest bassists, in my opinion, to ever see on stage. He is great performer as well. He's going to be on later in the show, as well as Justin Verrier to talk Pelicans. And don't forget Andrew Alexander from ESPN. Both those guys actually from ESPN. We're going to talk a lot about LSU. And he's got a book coming out with a Tiger Tour. I'll get into more of that later. But right now is a guy that I've been wanting to get on. You know how much I talk about how I love what they're doing over at CST with Saints tonight. They've got pregame stuff, but mostly it's postgame, and they get in depth. I mean, you have Deuce McAllister on that show, obviously Scott Shanley, Victor Howell, Mike Neighbors is always interviewing, Drew Brees and other players after the game. But there's a segment on that show that I love. It's called Behind Enemy Lines, where my guest here, Eric Richey, goes into the visiting locker room, win or lose, and he sometimes gets some interesting stuff. We'll get into one of those things he did this season later. But here he is, E-Rich.
Hey, man, Scott, good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you, my friend. I've been wanting to get you on for a while. You got a real busy schedule, but I'm glad we finally worked it out.
Absolutely, man. I love what you guys are doing over here. It's always fun. And, yeah, we got all kind of things to talk about. We kind of both can take a breather a little bit now. The regular season is over for high school football, but that just means the playoffs and more shows. But it's all, our careers. It's shows, stories, games. We just keep bouncing around.
This guy's a hustler, and I mean that in the most, the best way I could say that word. Because you get out there and you work and you do everything, which I love. You do the pros, you do college, and you do high school, and you love all three equally, which I love about you. But let's start right here.
Okay.
The big news of the day, we're going to get behind your show, Enemy Lines, your segment, and the Saints, but I got to talk LSU.
Sure.
You do a show also in training camp, I don't know if the colleges call it training camp, but, preseason practices in August. And you do a daily 15-minute thing on LSU's.
Yes.
And it's one of those things I've taped for the last 2 years. You do a fabulous job. But let's talk about the new hire, Ed Ogeron. He's coming and staying. He had the interim tag all year.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of thought that they might get another coach. But I got to get your first thought. Ed Ogeron is the new head coach.
I think it's a good thing in the situation that LSU was in. I think Jimbo Fisher was the guy that so many people wanted. I think that LSU was going for. I think the bottom line is Jimbo brought all those things that LSU has lacked, developing the offense, developing quarterbacks, etc. But if Jimbo was out, if Tom Herman was going to get into the bidding war, I think Ed Ogeron is great. Let him go at it. Let him do his thing. Let him recruit, which he's the best at.
The best. Period.
Absolutely. And that's where it starts with Ed Ogeron. And so many people keep bringing up his first tenure as a coach.
Right.
I mean, we're different people than we were 15 years ago.
No doubt.
Mean, we learn from mistakes.
Hey, got to have a cameo on The Blind Side.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, let him bring in, and hopefully he can bring in Lane Kiffin, add another element to this whole beat Nick Saban in Alabama thing, bringing him over here. So hopefully he can get Lane Kiffin. Hopefully he can get that offensive coordinator that he talked about. But he's got Dave Aranda. He just signed that extension.
That is huge,
and
by
that
the
was
way.
huge.
I mean, how big is keeping Dave Aranda here when he has connections to Texas new coach Tom Herman? Obviously, Alabama would love to take Aranda away. How big is that he's staying at LSU?
No, it's huge, and it was right off the bat. It was one of the first to do things on Coach O's list, and he got it done. So I think that speaks volumes about what is ahead. So the first piece of the puzzle is in. Dave Aranda is in. You already saw on social media, he's already out busting the recruiting trails already. They're taking selfies in five-star recruits' houses.
I saw that.
So I think that's fabulous as well. But the key, obviously, is going to be the offense and what he can do to turn that around, and hopefully Lane Kiffin could be the guy.
Coaches, like players, are prideful people. Ed Ogeron had to probably take a hit to his pride knowing that he wasn't the first choice. He might have been the bridesmaid rather than the bride. Obviously, like you alluded to, they went for Jimbo Fisher. That didn't work out. Then Tom Herman seemed to be the focus and the Houston head coach. And by the way, Tom Herman has lost to Navy, SMU, and now Memphis. So it's like, okay, I know he's a great coach. He comes up big. He beat Oklahoma. Florida State, he beat the brakes off them in the bowl last season, and he got by Louisville pretty easily. But Tom Herman to Texas, does this leave a little bit of a stink in Ogeron's mouth?
I don't think so. I think the bottom line is there are times in our careers, and I don't know about you, but my best job I've had in the business, I was the number 4 choice. And I loved it and went to Indianapolis at the Fox station, stayed there for 6 years. Coach O doesn't care where he was on the hiring line. The bottom line is he's got his dream job. He's ready to go. Whether Tom Herman, they dangled that out there with him and Herman played him a little bit, So what? Coach O's ready to just dive into it head first, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, you were the fourth choice. I think they had to go through 3 more pages to get to me. Like, all right, we're at 36 now. All right, Alexander, come on in. All right, I'll take it.
Absolutely. And I was that guy.
Bargaining power was done.
I was that guy. I'm like, I want this job. And those other guys were like, well, one guy went to ESPN after a few years later. But it's so funny how things materialize, the timing, and
we've both been around. I mean, we've both been around. You look great for your age, but I mean, when I think back to the last 25 years in TV, it's been a lot.
Yeah.
But I got to talk about one thing. Leonard Fournette, there's been talk that LSU, if they pass up tonight, right after our show, they're going to have the playoff rankings.
Sure.
And if LSU passes Auburn, which I think is plausible, that LSU could be in the Sugar Bowl if Florida loses to Alabama. What are your thoughts there? And do you think Leonard Fournette would play in this game, being in it would be in his hometown?
Yeah.
And his last game as an LSU Tiger.
Yeah, I don't know if that's all going to materialize. If LSU is going to wind up in the Sugar Bowl again. LSU loses to Auburn, LSU loses to Florida, and again, we're assuming Florida loses to Alabama. But I think the bottom line with Leonard Fournette, no matter what bowl game that LSU goes to, I think we will see number 7 one more time. I don't think it's just going to be based on playing in his backyard one more time in New Orleans. He's going to play in the bowl game. I think we're going to see Leonard Fournette one more time.
So you have good word on that? Because, I mean, I know a lot of people are wondering, if he's packing it in because, injury is a real thing.
No question.
And you would be passing up a lot of money, and I don't think a lot of people would hold it against him.
He's dealt with it from, 9 days before the season started in that last all-contact scrimmage.
Yeah.
And he has dealt with it. He has, been a trooper. Obviously, he didn't play in the last game, didn't even make the trip, but I think he's going to play in the bowl game.
All right, I've got Andrew Alexander talk some more LSU, so
Yep.
I'm going to switch gears to the Saints real quick. A much-needed win, and this reminded me, granted, it's the Rams, but the Rams came in with the same record as the Saints. It's not like, the Saints have been knocking the doors off anybody. They came in and took care of business like they used to. You were there. Tell us about it.
Well, I think the bottom line is this Saints team is playing defensively so much better than anybody gives them credit for.
The second half shutout was beautiful.
If you listen to national media still and people that aren't paying attention as closely as we are,
like Stephen A. Smith,
they're just saying, oh my God, the Saints defense is so unbelievably horrible that Drew Brees has to throw 4 touchdown passes a game for the Saints to win. But that's not really the case right now.
Yeah, it used to be, but not now.
It isn't. It really isn't. And there's a lot of no-name type guys on that Saints defense, but they're stepping up, and that's the first thing that I noticed. The second part, obviously, is the ground game with Mark Ingram and Tim Hightower, what they've been able to do really in the last 3 weeks. But the bottom line is this Saints team is a tough out right now, and I know that, 4 of the next 5 games that they play, their opponents are over 500, and it starts with the Lions this Sunday. The Saints, they still have a shot at this thing. It's unbelievable.
They have a shot. It's right there for them. They got Tampa twice, Atlanta, of course. You have Detroit coming in. That needs to set the tone. You have to win this game. They had a chance to stay in it last year against the same team on Monday night, and they could not get it done. They have to turn that around. But this team, to me, is better than that one. We'll see. I got to talk about Michael Thomas. This guy has been unbelievable. We had high hopes. You and I, we follow this team, and we know that he was supposed to be good. Did we have any idea he was this good?
I think we had an idea.
This good.
Honest to gosh,
this
we did.
Good.
Preseason.
Good, because I said he would be Rookie of the Year, but okay, go ahead.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, the catches that he was making in the preseason, I think kind of the poise that the young man has, and now obviously the numbers are coming with it. What he did after the horrible fumble game and the balls going off his shoulder pads into an interception, to be able to respond to like that.
The Broncos game you mentioned.
Exactly. The resiliency that he showed last week, I think speaks a lot for a rookie. I sit right next to Mike Neighbors from CST. He's going through the media guides, and he's like, hey, all of a sudden he's putting up Marcus Colston-type numbers in his freshman
better.
In his rookie
Ezekiel
year.
Elliott we know will be the Rookie of the Year, but he has put up a fine campaign. I got to say this team has kind of got this aura about him. You're in the enemy locker room, though. You had a great story with Jimmy Graham that was awesome, and it got some national publicity where Graham, they lost the game, obviously the former All-Pro tight end. He wasn't in a talkative mood.
No, he wasn't. and think about...
Well, tell people what happened.
Right. Just to set it up, my gig is to get the visiting team's point of view from the game, and you want to tie it into an ex-Saint, an ex-LSU player, something local usually that had a part in the game. Obviously, what we wanted to do, Scotty, was get Jimmy Graham. Jimmy hadn't spoke all week to the Seattle media. He hadn't talked about the Saints, so I went in there and knew we were in trouble right away when they took his nameplate down from the locker room. So I'm and then all of a sudden, ridiculous. A couple of trainers came and took his bags out. I'm like, he's got to come back. And no, he doesn't have to come back. So I went to the PR guy. I'm like, we're trying to get Jimmy. He's like, the best bet is just to wait outside the locker room. So we did.
And you walked across the field with him.
Jimmy comes out, and he didn't. And it'd be different.
And he didn't say a word to you.
Didn't say a word. Didn't even look at us. No eye contact.
Straightforward.
I felt like the court reporter saying, "Jimmy, did you do it? Do you have anything to say to the family?
Why'd you kill her, Jimmy?"
That's what I felt like. It was uneasy television. I was trying to do my job.
Oh, it was great TV though.
It was.
And everybody started joining you. Hey, let me switch gears because what I love about you, that's a great segment. You have to watch that on CST every week. It's great. But also the high school football playoffs. We are now in the finals for the private select in this weekend, and then the semifinals for all the public schools. Talk about the local teams. I don't have a ton of time left, but
sure.
Talk about the local ones that are still in it and who to watch.
I mean, this weekend, you got to start with Division III with the backyard rivalry. St. Charles and Riverside.
Two great teams.
They have been backyard dogs for a long time, and to take that show on the road in the biggest stage in the state is unbelievable. And Frank Monica, Bill Stubbs, two legends. It's going to be a fantastic game. You got Desterhan, you got Landry Carr, you got Landry Walker, you got Carr.
Desterhan is a team that, let me just say that, because all these teams you're about to mention, they're all great. I mean, great. Carson, but Desterhan with Robichaux, I did 2 or 3 of their games when I called him. This guy, he just keeps churning out great players.
Have not lost a game in the regular season on the field in 4 years. That tells you a lot right there. They're living on borrowed time, though, because they should have lost in the second round outside of a unbelievable fire drill on a 2-point conversion where they were going to tie the game with 9 seconds. Justin Jefferson passes the ball into the hands of Macon Clark.
Jordan and Ricky's brother?
Younger brother.
Right.
Yeah.
Jordan coaches
it's fire.
Over there.
Yeah, sure does. Yeah. And he just throws it up. Hail Mary lands. So they're living on borrowed time, and they play a tough Landry Walker team this week.
Carr's so exciting. I mean, listen, they have athletes. That's cliche, but they have coaches too. This team can play.
They've scored 50 or more points 10 weeks in a row. 50 or more points.
This isn't arena football, folks. This is high school football in 12-minute quarters, right?
And they play McDonough 35 and Coach Wayne Reese this week. And it's just been unbelievable what Bryson Brown has done. A former Jabbar Jalou player, by the way, and now he's their head coach.
Well, and then Landry Walker, you mentioned it, will be playing Desterhan, so it's great.
Got it.
Great football across. I love it. It's going to be fun.
Yes.
These next 2 weekends, get down to the Dome if you can for some high school football. Hey, I got a nice gift certificate for you.
Oh, appreciate it.
Wonderful restaurant. They just opened a new one across the river, but they have one in the Warehouse District.
Very nice.
And they also have one in Metairie right now, and they're building another one in the CBD.
Thank you.
So enjoy, and I want you to sign the ball. We're going to get you a Saints ball right here. This is our tradition.
You got it.
Here on Primetime Sports. That is Eric Richey.
Thanks,
check him out on CST. Saints tonight and so much more. Like I said, in August, make sure you look for his Tiger football pregame or preseason reports. Hey, we're coming up next. Hey, we're not done yet by a long shot. I told you, we're going to have Justin Verrier from ESPN talking Pelicans. That's coming up next. Stay tuned. I have a great show ahead. We'll be right back right here on Primetime Sports. Welcome back, Crescent City. I told you this was going to be Information Highway Day. I want to thank Eric Richey for just joining me talking about the Saints, LSU, college football as a whole, the big picture, and, of course, the high school playoffs, which the finals are this weekend and next, so that's going to be fun. Hey, don't forget, I told you I'm going to have a Saints Hall of Famer coming next week, as well as a current Saints player, so make sure you get that. But we're going to switch gears for a second from football, and we're going to move it over to basketball. The NBA is in full swing right now, and I know you may not have noticed with LSU and the Saints and Tulane still playing, but you know what? The Pelicans have kind of recovered from that slow start. They were 0-8, and then they proceeded to win 6 of their next 8 games, including 4 in a row, which coincided with the return of Drew Holiday. And then they've dropped 2 more on the road. They've got a very winnable game at home against the Lakers, which happens to be the town that my next guest lived in before coming down to the Crescent City. I've got Justin Verrier. He is with ESPN. He's been with them since he got out of college 8-9 years ago. and he's been here. I had you back on the show back, I guess it would have been June, right before the NBA draft. You're back.
Yeah, glad to be back here.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great.
All right, as far as the, your time in New Orleans, you'd only been here about 4 months. I got to get this out the way. Now you're kind of a resident now. You've been here about 8-9 months.
Yep.
What do you think about our town?
It's great. I mean, I think you could tell by the amount of weight that I've gained over the past few months that I've definitely sampled some of the local cuisine, and it's been great so far.
So
the
you
people
got
are
your
great.
freshman 15?
I think so. Maybe a little bit more, actually.
Well, I grew up here. I left for a long time, and I got 35 on me real quick. It happened like in a year and a half, and I'm trying to work the other way. So hopefully you don't get that far ahead.
Hope not.
But hey, let's talk about this Pelicans team. I mean, listen, the interest is a little bit waning. We had the playoff year 2 years ago. Boy, things were on the rise, 45-37, and you had a nucleus here. And then, we keep using injuries as the excuse, and it is valid. But now this is kind of a whole new team. I mean, you do have some of the same players. Obviously, AD is still the centerpiece, and Drew Holiday once you come back. But what is this team? I mean, give me a feel for the fan that wants to start going to games now that football is nearing an end. Tell us what this Pelicans team's all about.
Yeah, it does feel like that 2014-15 team where they went to the playoffs. Anthony Davis seemed like that next big guy in the NBA, that next MVP candidate that can maybe turn New Orleans around to basketball. It does seem like a relic of the past at this point. It almost feels like a Chris Paul sort of team.
It's only 18 months ago.
I know.
I mean, things were really looking great here.
It feels like 18 years at this point. I mean, but they did do a good job this offseason bringing in guys who could make them a little bit more competitive in the immediate. Guys like Etuan Moore, guys like Solomon Hill. Not necessarily household names, but as you're seeing this year, they're a little bit more competitive than last year when after those guys went out, as you said, there really wasn't much after them, and they really felt the repercussions of it.
All right, I want to get to those guys in a second, but I got to talk about the man, the centerpiece, Anthony Davis. I mean, 2 years ago, coming into the league, the general managers had the poll where they get asked who is the player you want to build your team around. It's usually a younger guy, so you can start with him. And Anthony Davis was the overwhelming favorite. Well, this year, he was like fourth on the list. A couple of the older guys were ahead of him, LeBron and I believe Kevin Durant. And the number one guy was Karl Anthony Towns, who followed him at Kentucky. I think that might have lit a fire under him because I think he played Karl Anthony Towns the other day, and if I'm not mistaken, he had 45 points against the Timberwolves, and Towns had only 9. What are your thoughts now about this guy leading and how he's adjusted to losing after knowing nothing but winning at Kentucky?
Yeah, I think the death of Anthony Davis as the next big thing in the NBA was a little bit premature. I think a lot of people focused on those injuries from last year. He missed 21 games. It's a career high. And really the narrative kind of flipped on him where he was the type of guy who was so talented, but maybe we wouldn't get to reap those benefits and be able to see him do that because he was always unable to stay on the court. He missed the last 14 games of the season with the biggest surgical procedure of his career on his left knee. And so it seemed like we didn't really know what to expect of him. Maybe his teammates couldn't provide enough in support, but this year he has been that guy and more, scoring at rates that like he's never been before. He's leading the league in points and blocks, which is unbelievable. And really across the board, his numbers have been career highs. Unfortunately, maybe he hasn't gotten enough support from his teammates.
He's got his Christmas socks on right there.
I know. Look, he's a festive guy, and he's really been decking the halls this year to really go out there on a limb. But he's been great. I mean, if there's anything you could put your hat on as far as a fan, I mean, getting to watch this guy for I think the cheapest price in the league is definitely on the top of the list.
Well, I'm going to say this because Anthony Davis was this breath of fresh air for his first 3 years. And last year we saw a more sullen guy. But then again, they started 1-11. And he started without 4 of his fellow starters coming in to the season. But you saw a different side of him. You saw a guy that looked a little dejected, and the body language was not good. I read an article, and it might have even been yours, doing research for this, and it said something about his attitude just seemed so much better. The way the article was reading out, say, hey, listen, everybody wants to paint it on my support and the injuries. I read all this stuff. I see it. And he basically was like, listen, I am coming in with a new attitude. Now, have you seen that in the locker room in your time with him?
Yeah, absolutely. Day one at Media Day, big smile on his face, and I think he's really embraced being the leader of this team. I think he's pretty much realized he's locked in now for 4 years, maybe 3.5 from this point going forward, that if anything's going to change in this team, for this franchise, it's going to be him that's going to have to do it. And he's really taken that on his back and taken that almost as his rallying call. It's been difficult here in the media just in this past season, the 0-8 start. I think the distinction I would make is he's made sure not to throw his teammates under the bus, but he has been frustrated by this situation.
It's a fine line, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, he's not going to take it on those guys. He's loyal to a fault. You look back in high school, he stayed with the team where they won 6-7 games after he made that big jump in height and kind of in his trajectory.
And in today's world, you automatically go to a big school in high school. You don't stay at this little private school, right?
Yeah, but he's managed to put a good face on the situation, and he's really trying to set an example for the rest of the team here going forward. Let's
talk about Jrue Holiday. I absolutely love this guy. I know he's beloved around the NBA and the media, and we all know what he did for his wife, and any man should do. But it was, NBA is great. You make a lot of money, but he knows what's most important in his life. But we also know the value he brings to this team, and it was immediate, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, you could see the difference right as soon as he entered that lineup that first game. They went on a 4-game winning streak as soon as he comes back. I mean, I think that's as clear as day is kind of the sort of impact he can have on a team. And really it speaks to the way that they set up this team just in the foundation. I mean, it's pretty much AD and Jrue Holiday as your two guys, and really they went out and filled out the rest of the roster with just solid guys who can maybe just hold the line and just make sure that they're competitive.
And he's got some snappy glasses now, too, because he had the eye surgery last year.
Yep.
We've seen some goggles over the years. James Worthy had them. Kurt Rambis had the glasses. Kareem used to wear them. Drew's got his own style now.
Yeah, he's fashion forward. Not necessarily Horace Grant level rec specs like I was rocking when I was in elementary school.
Horace Grant.
Yeah.
By the way, Horace did pretty well. He had the early 90s with the Bulls, and then he got the Magic stuff going on, too.
Absolutely.
You remember the Magic more than the Bulls, I'm assuming?
Probably a little bit more.
All right.
Big Penny fan. Growing up.
What great. By the way, that 95 team, 94 team, that was the most exciting team. 96 even.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bulls got good again, but 95 was, they got robbed. Anyway, let's move forward. Tariq Evans. You need another scorer in this group, and he has been out, but does he fit the system? We've been hearing maybe he's not the same kind of guy, but I know one thing. They need someone that can put the ball in the hoop besides Anthony and now Jrue. Is he a tonic for this, or do you think he might be more of a distraction?
He could be. Just as we were saying, I mean, they really only have two top-level guys in Jrue and AD, so any sort of infusion of talent, they're going to welcome with open arms. The big question is last year, it didn't seem like Tariq fit what they were doing, and if anything, they've really taken that to another level this year, really emphasizing ball movement, being a team, looking for those open shots, looking for the best shots on the floor. And we'll see, because Tyreek's the type of guy who likes to pound the ball and kind of make his own thing happen out on the court and really play his own sort of game. It really doesn't really jive with what Alvin Gentry wants to do, so we'll see here. I mean, he's kind of a wild card, and the way I look at it is you'd probably rather have that wild card in your deck than not.
Yeah, I'll take the wild card.
Absolutely, and I mean, worst case situation, he shows a little bit off the bench maybe, and then maybe you could swing him in a trade if that's possible going forward, but he'll be nice to have, just to have another guy in there who could create some things.
Well, late in the game, when you know you need a bucket, at least it gives the other team somebody to guard.
Absolutely.
You take pressure off of maybe the other guys that you might set the play up for. Hey, as far as this team, you alluded to it earlier, a lot of new players, new blood coming in. They were a little bit handicapped with the money, because the year that they finally got money in, well, everybody else got a lot more money because the salary cap went up.
Right.
Last year they couldn't get anybody. So I know that Dell Demps and Alvin take a big hit with the local fans because they don't feel they're bringing in the right people. But we all know they're kind of handcuffed with that, and it's not like it's been a great destination when you finished with 30 wins last year. So when you talk about the new guys that they did bring in, I'm talking about the Langston Galloways, I'm talking about, obviously you mentioned E'Twaun Moore and Solomon Hill, the rest of them. How have they been playing?
Yeah, it's kind of been up and down to start with. I think they've given you about what you expected for the most part. Langston Galloway struggled a little bit earlier, but now his shooting's coming around a little bit. E'Twaun Moore has really been kind of a bright spot, being able to be a 3-and-D guy they expected from him on the wing. Solomon Hill, maybe the guy that's been struggling a little bit more than I think expected, and that's the one they really took the big hit for, a guy who really didn't show much at Indiana with the Pacers. Really, they kind of went on a limb to a certain extent in order to sign him and give him this opportunity, a bigger opportunity than he's had at any point in his career. Struggled on the offensive end, and at some point during early in the season, they actually moved him to the second unit to maybe try to jumpstart him a little bit. But, they've really given them kind of a baseline to start with. You move out guys like Eric Gordon, Ryan Anderson, high-octane offensive players, and they really traded them in for defensive players, guys who were, more role players. And with the return of Drew Holiday, you've seen them kind of settle into those roles. We'll see here if they can really kind of contribute as much as they need to, but, there have been some bright spots to start with.
Buddy Hield came in. I mean, obviously, they had the choice between he and Jamal Murray, and they went with Hield because they felt he was more NBA ready, I guess. This team, Vince and the owner, is getting old. I mean, they wanted to have somebody. He has had a little adjustment problem here. They had the 3 guards coming in. It was Chris Dunn, who I think they probably would have loved to have gotten, who went 5th to the Celtics. Then you had Hield going to the Pels, and then Jamal Murray, you see in the middle there, Kentucky, went 7th to the Nuggets. Talk about the 2 guys that they could have had, and I mean Murray and the guy they did get in Hield, and do you think they made the right choice? And tell me how they're both progressing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it remains to be seen, but I think anyone would tell you that Buddy is struggling. Maybe perhaps the biggest disappointment of the rookie class this year. I know it's early to say at this point. Buddy has a long career in front of him. So does Jamal Murray, a guy who's really been lighting it up for the Denver Nuggets off the bench, shooting from 3, I think better than anybody expected at this point, being 19 years old and really stepping into that role. But Buddy struggled. I mean, he shot 46% from 3 as a college senior. I think he's at 29% right now. And
those extra feet matter, apparently.
Apparently. You expected Buddy to struggle his first year like any rookie, but you figured that considering the way he shot it as a senior, that skill would translate here into the NBA just because he was firing it from way back there, and really that hasn't come along. I think I was encouraged with Buddy going into the season because he really kind of shed the skin of the college superstar that he was last year, where he doesn't have an ego, isn't worried about getting his shots, but you could see some times where he makes one and he's ready to fire it up again. So I think there's a real adjustment period going forward for him.
He wants to show everybody he can still shoot the ball.
Yeah.
I know they love Jamal Murray in Kentucky. One of my close friends is an executive at Kentucky, at Denver, with the Nuggets, and actually he played at Kentucky himself. Real quick, in closing, Tim Frazier has been a really nice surprise, and I don't even consider him a surprise because we saw at the end of last year what he could do, but he's even gotten better in my opinion, and he was, even though they were losing earlier, he was actually one of the bright spots. Talk about what he provides, and then Dante Cunningham's injury, and with that, is that going to hurt?
Yeah, I think Tim Frazier has been more than anyone ever expected. I think the big reason why is he's playing with Anthony Davis. I think he has 86% of his minutes have been with Anthony Davis on the floor next to him. And when you have a guy like Anthony Davis, what you want is a guy to get him the ball. And for that reason, I think to a large degree, they've left Drew Holiday in that second unit to take advantage of Tim Frazier's good play this season and to really handcuff him with Davis in order to provide a nice 1-2 punch. But as you said, Dante Cunningham, that impact has been more than I think people would expect, considering Dante's just
he's a gamer,
history
man.
in the league. Yeah, he's really
a gamer.
He's the type of guy that's going to fill all those roles.
And he's got that broken fibula, so he'll be out. But hey,
absolutely,
Justin, you have a future in television. There's no doubt about it. I know people make the progression. A lot of people have gone from the print media to TV, and I'm sure you're going to be one of the next ones.
Means a lot.
You are now entrenched in the Lower Garden District. This is not there, but it's uptown by Tulane University, a great wine bistro. You need to check this out. You're going to love it, and great food as well. So that's just a little thank you. By the way, check him out, ESPN.com. Justin Verrier, every article just about that you see on ESPN about the Pelicans is from this guy, and he's fabulous. Hey, I want to thank him, but also coming up, man, I've got an interesting story coming in the last segment. Andrew Alexander with ESPN Radio. Well, he's visited every college in the SEC this fall. That's right, all 14 of them, and went to games. And he is going to be coming out with a book about his experience tailgating in the stadiums. I think it's a fabulous idea. We're going to visit with him later, and we're going to also talk some more LSU and Saints with him as well. But coming up next, I've got a guy I've known for 20 years. Back when he was playing at my crawfish boils in Atlanta, Charlie Wooton, to me, is the most entertaining bassist I've ever heard in my life. And I don't say these words lightly. I'm into music, and this guy is one of the best. He used to be with the Royal Southern Brotherhood, with the Neville Brothers. He's been with tons of bands, and he's with a bunch of them still right now. But he's coming up next right here on Primetime Sports. Stay tuned.
The mark of Legacy Kitchen is simple. We offer numerous dishes like chicken enchilada soup, prime filet and loaded baked potato, baby back ribs, and so much more. At Legacy Kitchen, we serve American fare, crafted cocktails, and we offer a great selection of wines by the glass. Metairie at Betts and Martin Berman, and in the Warehouse District at Chapatulas and Girard.
I burned for health.
For never being big again.
I burned for my family.
For my 10th high school reunion.
For swimsuit season. I burned for myself.
Orange Theory Fitness. Keep burning.
Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans. Oh, those are the sweet sounds of Charlie Wooton with this new album he put out. This came out April 22nd, and that song's Kirabella, about his two dogs. We've been hearing them all show, and here's the man right here. But before we get to him, I've got to tell you a little history. I've known Charlie Wooton for 20 years, literally back in the Atlanta days. I used to go see him about twice a month, and certainly every Friday at Northside Tavern in Atlanta. He would always play the first Friday of the month, and he's still doing it even though he's come back to New Orleans for 7 years. He's Lafayette born, went to Atlanta for a long time, and now he's all New Orleans. He's been with several bands. He was with the Royal Southern Brotherhood, with a bunch of people you've heard of, but more important than that, Zydefunct. That's the band that used to play in New Orleans. He still gets back with them in Atlanta a good bit, but the other band's Zabaduo, which is now Zabadoo Dat. Well, that's what this album is. He's got other bands that he's all about. Charlie Wooton Project, and too many to mention. And I'm leaving out the best one. Charlie Wooton. You did something on the Bobby Hebert show. You were with us, and you did some playing. And I've had guys like Mark Stone. I've had Derek Freeman. We have Big Sam from Big Sam's Funky Nation coming up. We just had some other musicians. I have Frenchie, the artist. So it's a sports show, but it's sports and entertainment, and you're a big part of that. But what's the band I'm leaving out?
You're leaving out New Orleans Suspects, who I've been touring with right out of New Orleans.
By the way, the Suspects, this is a project that I knew you were very excited. They were a popular band before you joined them. And I remember you've been playing a lot with Bonorama as well, but you called me to say, hey, Scotty, I'm going to be a part of the New Orleans Suspects. And I saw a glimmer in your eye, even over the phone, when you told me that, because you were excited.
Sure. Yeah, Bonorama was my first big gig here in New Orleans, and they gave me the respect with the musicians and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Just around town. Toured Royal Southern Brotherhood for 4 years with Cyril Neville. It was a beautiful thing. And now with the New Orleans Suspects. And, also, like you said, I go back and play with Zydefunct. Zabadoo Dat, we put out the Zabadoo CD, which is leading to Zabadoo Dat. We're going to put out the full record next year. It features Laura Reed on vocals. She's one of the most amazing vocalists you ever heard. The rhythm section is Rafael Pereira and Mike Phillips, who play with Janelle Monáe.
Right. You know, I've seen you with Laura Reed. Phenomenal.
Yeah, she's incredible.
And by the way,
she sings 2 songs on the Zabaduo CD also.
Yeah, this one right here, by the way.
That's it.
Right here. And hey, by the way, I said this in the open. It's worth mentioning, and I don't mince my words when I say it. The most entertaining bassist performer I've ever seen. Listen, I've been to the Who concerts, John Entwistle. This guy not only plays great, he's an entertainer, and you have to go see him real quick. Kind of give people the outline of your last 20 years, just your history, what you've been doing, and what are you doing now, and what do you look to do in the future?
Well, while I lived in Atlanta, I had my own groups. I had Zydefunct, I had the Charlie Wooton Project,
right.
And I led my own bands and did a lot of that. And, and I worked that for a long time. Moving to New Orleans, I was able to get out. Like I said, I got out with Bonorama first. Royal Southern Brotherhood brought me all over the world, man. Went to Australia, went to Europe, went to Canada, all over the United States.
You just got back from Japan, right?
Well, yeah, and that gave me a platform to do other things. Zabaduo just went to Japan for a week.
I love this picture of you.
I also got to play with Sonny Landreth while I was there. So
amazing.
I got to double dip.
You two have a relationship now.
Yes, we do.
Very close.
You know, it's a beautiful thing. He's one of my heroes. I mean, Congo Square was one of the first songs I learned for Zada Funk. And I'm in Japan on stage yelling at myself going, you're playing Congo Square with the guy that wrote it.
I saw that. By the way, he's got a fan page y'all should go like on Facebook as well. And you said that comment, and I thought about how cool is that? Because he said, hey, I'm playing Congo Square, the song, with the guy that wrote it.
You know, you mentioned I'm from Lafayette. Look, I'm just a little Cajun boy from Lafayette, Louisiana. I went to Como High School, and I have played with my heroes. I've been all over the world. Dreams do come true. Never stop working at it because it happens, bro. I'm living the life right now. I'm getting ready to go to Australia for a month and a half. I produced this kid's name. His name is, I call him a kid. He's 27 years old. His name is James Southwell.
He's a kid to us still.
He's a kid, yeah, I know, right? We're getting old.
I get these athletes who are 32. I'm like, hey, kid. And they're like,
but Doug Belote, Mike Limler, the best New Orleans musicians are on the record. We did the record here. We did it at Dockside Studios right outside Lafayette. So going to Australia for a month, we're playing these big festivals, man. You know,
what are their festivals like compared to ours? That's an interesting question because I used to hang with a bunch of Australians when I lived in Europe, and they get down.
Australians get down.
Yeah.
They know how to throw down. I feel very normal there. Let's put it that way.
Right.
You know, I've gone to Europe where I'm like, okay, this culture is completely different than anything I've experienced. Japan is wonderful, but the cultures are different.
You're a foreigner in Japan. I used to go to Tokyo for the NBA game. You feel like a foreigner there. You can blend in another place.
But they treat you unbelievable. It was beautiful.
On stage and off? What are you talking about?
The whole time. From the second I got there to the second I left, I was treated like it was the food they fed us. They fed us wonderful meals. You know, I didn't touch a piece of gear. It was wonderful. We signed autographs for an hour and a half. Just me and Raphael.
Wow.
So, you know what I'm saying?
It just made me think of something when you said your heroes because I can't think of his name. Gosh, it's on my tip of my tongue. We were at the Atlanta Jazz Festival together, which is totally different than ours. It's more jazz and oriented. It's out at Piedmont Park. And you were like, I'm about to...
Marcus Miller?
Marcus Miller.
Yep.
I'm about to meet one of my heroes.
Yep.
And you continue to do this every day, don't you?
You know, I saw him there. I met him there. And then I saw him in France. And I told Bart, the guitar player, I said, man, I met Marcus once, but this time I'm going to find something that's going to connect us, right? So I go and I say, hey, Marcus, my name's Charlie. I'm from Lafayette, Louisiana. He goes, Lafayette? He goes, I just recorded my last CD at Dockside. And that's where I've done 8 records there in the last 4 years, right? And I go, Dockside Studios, that's right outside of my hometown. I go, I can't believe this.
Wow.
I go, my brother lives My brother lives right across the river. So Marcus says to his band, hey, band, this is Charlie. His brother lives right across the river from Dockside. And here I am talking to him, my hero, and
something else,
making a connection. You know what I'm saying?
Before we go, you've been hearing his music the entire show. We're going to play it over the next month or so. But I got to say this. What's your project right now that you're really focusing on, and where can people see you before you take off to, say, Australia?
New Orleans Suspects will be at Tipitina's on December 30th.
Okay.
And then we're playing the Mason December 31st. Zada Funk will be in Atlanta January 6th and February 24th. We're doing our big King Cake party. You know.
So, by the way, that North Side, if you're ever in Atlanta on a Friday, the first Friday of the month, you have to check that one out.
Well, it's not always first Friday of the month now. It's just when I can make
when
it.
You can, dude,
you know
busy. You're on the road.
Dude,
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
When I say this, I'm not saying that because he's sitting here. I've said it to his face and behind his back. He's one of the best ever. And I'm not just saying, you really are. Dude, I've seen you over 100 times. I'd get tired after 20. I've seen you over 100 times. You have to go check him out. He can compliment bands. He does that many times, but he also confront them, and very few have that talent. And Charlie Wooton's one of them. Thank you again, bud. Hey, by the way, you got to go. I have a gift certificate for you. We got a little dinner for you and your beautiful wife, Tracy.
That's right.
Y'all go on to this restaurant here. We got one in the
Awesome.
Warehouse District. They just built one in West Bank. They got one in Metairie, and they're going to do one in the CBD. Take it out. I appreciate you. I got to go. Hey, by the way, check him out, Charlie Wooton. Coming up next, I've got Andrew Alexander. He's been around the SEC. Charlie travels around the world. Andrew has been to every college football SEC school this year, and he's writing a book. That's coming up next. Stay tuned on Primetime Sports. Welcome back, Crescent City. It has been a big-time show. Man, we've had a lot of guests, and I'm so happy to wrap up with this one because, to me, this might be the most interesting story of them all. A young guy from Baton Rouge who went to LSU, graduated fairly recent, about 5 years ago. He's been in the sports business up in Baton Rouge as a writer. He's done some TV. He had a radio show. Well, he's down here in New Orleans now working for ESPN Radio New Orleans. And he's doing some stuff with them on air and behind the scenes. His name is Andrew Alexander, but his story is very interesting because he's done something I think we all wish we could do or should have done at some point in our lives. He's an SEC football fan, a big one. So he decided, you know what? I'm going to go to every single SEC school and go to a game this year. There's 14 teams, so you have to be creative. And one week he went on a Thursday and then went to another school on that Saturday. But he is going to write a book about his experience. He's almost through. He's been to 14, but he's going to go to the SEC championship game this weekend with Florida and Alabama playing in Atlanta. But this is an interesting tale, and it's going to be called Tiger Shirt Tour. And here is the huggy, koozie, whatever you want to call it. Here he is, Andrew Alexander. He's wearing his Tiger shirt. That's what it's called, the Tiger Shirt Tour. Welcome to the show, my
Thanks for having me.
And by the way, these huggies, and I call them huggies, others call them koozies. Yeah. You used to do this in college. I remember seeing these Patrick Peterson 7 ones, and then you had the 7 for Tyrann,
Honey Badger, yeah.
Honey Badger Matthew. So you're a little bit of an entrepreneur.
Yeah, don't tell anybody about that. You know, using their image without their permission.
Oh, that's right. Never mind. He never did any of that. But anyway, you were giving these away. You started this tour. I have to just say this. This is brilliant. I mean, brilliant. And I wish I had come up with the idea. I had thought about doing shows on all the stadiums when I was doing stuff with Fox, and that never really came to fruition. But you're going to every school. What gave you the idea?
You know, honestly, like you said, I've been an SEC fan for a long time. Grew up going to LSU games, went to LSU, and I've been, before the whole tour, I've been to 6 different stadiums, including Death Valley and Baton Rouge. And I was like, you know, I'm young. I don't have any other responsibilities. I've got Saturdays free. Why not try it? Why not try to make this happen, go the distance, go all 14? And like you mentioned, 2 weeks, the very first week and this past week, I had to do 2 in 1 week.
Well, I always think about this because your boss was the guy that I worked for. Is he cool with letting you go? Because you can't just go on Saturday. You got to go the day before. So you just take off Friday and work extra hard the rest of the week?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously talked about it before the season started and got his blessing. So he's been
let's
very
just
supportive.
say, hey, let's give a shout out to Truck because he's great, and I do appreciate what he's done for me. And letting you go on Fridays is a big deal. But let's talk about that first week because you went to a Thursday night game. I believe it was in Knoxville, Tennessee, and then you went on to Kentucky to start your tour.
Yeah, it was insane, and it was like, what am I getting myself into? I mean, first of all, it's a long drive, so I drove from New Orleans, stopped at Baton Rouge.
You drive at all of them?
No, I drove to most of them, yeah.
Okay. So
a few I had to fly to, the Columbias and things like that. But so I drove up there, and it was unlike anything. It was a Thursday game, so I was kind of bummed out. The crowd wasn't great in Knoxville, but we went tailgating.
But it was early in the season.
It was early.
The tailgating, which
we
had pictures from all of them. We couldn't use them all, but I wish you could have seen this. Tell people about that. Is one of the most unique and cool tailgating experiences that there is.
Because of the geography in Tennessee, the Tennessee River runs right by Neyland Stadium. People bring their boats up, their large boats, and instead of tailgating on dry land, they tailgate in their boat. And so for this game, there was a few boats there, probably 50 or so. But for, say, the Alabama game, they'll have 500 boats. And so it's something that's pretty crazy. People bring their yachts, their party boats, big and small, and it's a fun little community that they have there in Knoxville.
And then you went on to Kentucky, which is not a powerhouse, but it's a fun place to go see football, particularly when they feel that they're still in it, because basketball season's always around the corner for them. But I have to ask you, off the top of your head, I'm going to surprise you. When you think of this 14 weeks that you've been doing this, what is your experience that comes first and why?
I got to say probably it's Death Valley. And
the one you've been to
the one I've been to a million
times?
times, but it was Alabama and LSU, and there was such a heightened. It reminded me of Alabama 2012 when Bama came back after beating LSU in the national championship, and there was so much buzz. And I was looking forward to this game all year long. And after LSU lost 2 games early on, I was like, man, this game's going to take on a whole new significance. But LSU aside, it's got to be Georgia. Georgia's the best tailgating experience.
Between the hedges is something else, isn't it?
It's incredible.
Yeah, we have a picture of Georgia.
That's the Spike Squad.
What's the story with these guys?
So that's the Spike Squad, and they're a group of students that dresses up crazy for every game, and they're on the front row of the student section. There's a guy dressed up like Darth Maul. There's a guy dressed up like Archer from the TV show. All sorts of different face paint. I see some KISS people right there. So like Gene Simmons. It's just a bunch of students that like to go crazy.
I don't see a lot of LSU people do a whole lot. I guess you do the face paint. I don't see a lot. So give me some other. You went to the Grove and Ole Miss.
The Grove is beautiful. The
one
Grove
of
is
the
a
great
top
places.
3 easily. Grove will always be a top 3. I went. That's one of their buses. Obviously, the city of Oxford. They have a lot of English influence. That was the double-decker
because of
bus.
Oxford, England.
they have like the large telephone booths that they have in London and stuff like that. So they kind of play off that a lot for sure.
Did you go to the Faulkner statue?
I did.
And you rubbed the feet?
I did. I did rub the feet and everything like that.
That's a great tradition. I
would say top 4 for me, and they were my top 4 before I even traveled, and it really just reaffirmed it. It's no particular order. It's LSU,
well, that's
Ole Miss.
Let's go. Just be honest.
LSU, Ole Miss, Tuscaloosa, and Georgia.
And I actually, you know what? I would say the same thing. And for me, and I'm just going to say my experiences. Tennessee, when they're rolling, that is a great stadium to be at. And I used to go in the 90s when they were really rolling with Peyton Manning and all. But Auburn, when they're rolling, that's a great place to be. Florida, although I can't stand their jean-wearing short fans, that is a great atmosphere. The SEC's got it going on, doesn't it?
So in Auburn is really interesting. The game I was at was the LSU-Auburn game. So obviously it took on new significance. It became Les Miles' last game.
Oh, my goodness.
And after the game, someone lit the tree on fire. In Toomer's Corner, they roll the trees with toilet paper after every Auburn home victory. And someone walked by and lit it on fire.
What, an LSU fan?
It was actually a German guy, randomly in town.
Because this would be bad PR.
Exactly. It wasn't. They thought it was LSU that
Especially
night.
after the guy from Bama poisoned the trees.
So that was an insane. I was at one of the, getting something to eat and drink after the game, and it's like midnight. And all of a sudden, we turn behind us and we see the tree's on fire. And it's just like, it's covered in toilet paper and just went up.
Oh yeah, it went
up.
I don't know why I didn't know that story. Hey, the Cockaboos, which is South Carolina's tradition. Listen, South Carolina, I got to give them some credit. Those people put 80,000 in the stadium when they stink, and they're not doing very well this year, although they got a little better towards the end of the season. Tell me about that addition to the SEC. I know it wasn't one of the more recent ones, but they only came around like 20-something years ago, and that to me seems like a new team. But talk about that experience.
Yeah, so that picture is the Cockaboos, and essentially what a Cockaboos is they have this abandoned train track running right next to the stadium, and they have these old train cars they've outfitted. It's like a suite in like a caboose, essentially. And so people will buy these things and furbish them up really nicely, and they'll host these really elegant tailgates. Think of kind of like the Grove, but in a train. And so there's probably like 20 or 25 of them, and they're really nice. And we were able to go in one and talk to the people there. And the thing about South Carolina, they got this really unique tradition at the beginning of every game is they play the song Sandstorm, which is a techno song, and they pass out white towels to everybody as they walk in the game. And I was like, all right, this is probably a really corny tradition, but it is actually really riveting, and it's so exciting to see it.
I can't let you go without talking about Stingray, the guy with the cowbell who just screams. He's a big fat guy, and he is become kind of an icon now in the SEC. Talk about that, and then obviously they had a quarterback that's doing real well in the NFL now.
Yeah, so Stingray, like you said, he's a Mississippi State super fan. Ironically enough, he actually went to the University of Alabama, but loves Mississippi State for some reason.
Which is very weird.
It's a really strange thing.
Right.
He loves the weather, which I don't know, maybe there's a tie there with Mississippi State. So I actually sat with him at his game, and he's the guy that does rant videos. Goes on Paul Feinbaum.
Yeah, you have to look Stingray up if you don't know.
He's got 20 cowbells. It's insane. He is Mississippi State through and through. I wish everyone had a fan like Stingray because he is so passionate about SEC football. He's really what the book's all about. It's the fans that make up this amazing conference.
Well, since we're on that, tell me about the book. Tell me what's going to happen, when's it coming out, and what's it going to entail?
So the book is called The Tiger Shirt Tour, and it's a blend of my own experiences through all 14 stadiums, some stories from fans like Stingray, some big super fans from around the conference, and also kind of a travel guide, like how to do Oxford right, how to do Baton Rouge right, where to go, how to do Mizzou right. That's Mizzou right there, the
That's
famous
the only one
six
I haven't
columns.
been to.
Beautiful,
I've been
very
for
underrated
basketball,
campus.
but never for football.
So kind of a blend of all these things. I want people to pick it up and pick the book up and say, hey, I'm going to Athens this week. Where do I want to go? What do I want to see? I'm only going to be there for 36 hours. I want to make sure I at least do it right. So I'm hoping that you'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll have a good time, you'll be able to plan your trip in future years.
All right, let's talk about LSU real quick. I know you're a big fan. Ed Ogeron is the new coach. Give me your thoughts.
As an LSU fan, I'm not really thrilled. As an SEC fan, I'm super ecstatic because it means SEC Media Days will be great again. He is very enthusiastic.
I thought Les was great.
Well, Spurrier's gone, Les is gone, so now he's going to revamp it up. And hopefully he'll have some great quotes. But yeah, as an LSU fan, I was kind of bummed out. I was hoping that they were going to be able to land Tom Herman or Jimbo Fisher. That didn't work out, but look, they could have probably done worse.
You were at Alabama. I've got to talk some college football. They are the preeminent number one team. Can they be beaten? I mean, Nick Saban's got this thing rolling. That defense is one of the greatest I've ever seen.
I think the only thing that could beat Bama right now is themselves. They look pretty much unstoppable. I thought LSU could give them a run for their money, and they did till the fourth quarter. But
the only game all season that was 0-0 going in the fourth quarter by any team in college football.
I mean, they're just thrashing people. Auburn, Tennessee, A&M, you name it, and they're just laying the wood on them. So I think they're going to do the same to Florida this weekend.
You got the contenders would be Clemson, who was really impressive last week, Ohio State, Washington. How do they fit in the mix? And also, do you give the Big Ten champion, whoever wins between Penn State and Wisconsin, a chance?
If it's Penn State, I think you give them a chance, and this will be interesting because
they beat Ohio State.
Because they beat Ohio State. It's going to set a precedent in the future. Does the conference title matter, or does being the best team matter? Because you could argue that Ohio State is the best team, but they lost to Penn State. And so how does the playoff committee decide that? And I think it should be. I think conference championships should factor in.
Well, if that was the case, LSU would have 3 national titles in 8 years because Alabama would not have been in it. But Alabama did deserve it. I thought, I go for the best team.
I think so.
And I like the best team. I know the conference champion is important, but Ohio State's better than Penn State. We know this. I mean, there was a night game.
But
they
lost.
They
lost.
They're better. I'm just telling you. I think the whole country feels they're better. I don't think they're great. I don't think they can beat Alabama right now, but they have the best chance to beat Alabama, I think, more than I would say. By the way, that Michigan-Ohio State game, epic.
That was amazing. That's a game that it's on the SEC I'd love to go to one day. That's one of the biggest games all year. I mean, you put that up with the Iron Bowl, Michigan and Ohio State. I got to see part of it, but I was kind of moseying around Tuscaloosa that day. But it was exciting. That's what's college football.
Well, you know, I've been to both places, but never against each other. That's one I want to see as well. Bucket list is that you got to do Duke, North Carolina basketball if you've never done that.
Army Navy football is on my bucket list too.
See, I have not done that either. Red Sox Yankees I have done a few times. That is another. There's a lot of bucket lists, and this guy's knocking a bunch off of his. Dude, this Tiger Shirt Tour thing. I am so happy for you that you got to do this and enjoyed all the experiences around the SEC. Do you think that our Leonard Fournette, real quick. I want to say this real quick because this is a guy that's meant so much to the LSU football program the last 3 years. There's 2 guys out there, Herschel Walker and Bo Jackson, who's been compared to a lot. Both these guys, like Leonard, are just huge specimens of human beings. They're just stallions, and I mean that in the most positive sense. Is he in their class? Because one thing that strikes me, besides the raw strength, is the amazing speed all 3 of these had. Georgia had Herschel Walker as a sprinter. So did Bo Jackson obviously with Auburn. And then I know Leonard Fournette hasn't been doing with LSU, but he could, and he was a 2-time state champion in the 100 meters. Do you think he compares to them all around and on the football field?
I think so, and if LSU didn't already have a great track team, he probably may have been enlisted for double duty. So I would say yes, he won't have the hardware, he won't have the Heisman Trophy and some of the other accolades, but without a doubt, the eye test, seeing it on TV, seeing it in person, I didn't see those guys in person, but just people that did see them in person, I think that they are on the same level without a doubt.
Look out for the book. It's coming in, in the next several months. July, we got a date. I can't wait to see it myself. If you're an SEC fan, you're going to want to get it. Andrew Alexander, ESPN Radio. I have a great gift certificate for you.
Awesome.
I think you could check that out and enjoy.
Thank you so
a nice
much.
Restaurant.
Thanks
I appreciate you coming on, and good luck with the book. Have fun at the SEC championship game, and apparently LSU might have a shot if Florida loses. I'm not positive of that right at the moment, but if Florida loses to Alabama, which they should, they might get in. Andrew Alexander, appreciate you. It's been a great show. I've got to thank everybody that makes this show happen. The Redhead Tsunami has been my sidekick for a long time. Appreciate you. But this producer, William Hill, he's the one that gets it all done. The brains behind the operation. I appreciate him. Naila. Hey, Kenny Juno, he lets us hear things, and we can talk to you in the audio. And everybody else behind the scenes, Jay Smoove, I appreciate you all. Everybody have a great show. Hey, by the way, next week it's going to be big. I'm going to have Danny O'Bromowitz. We're going to have a current Saint, Eric Harris. We got a couple other big surprises for you. Big Sam from Big Sam's Funky Nation. And I've got one big guest as well that I'll save for next week. We'll be right back next week on Primetime Sports.